Right, so I'm going to make this little mini oil can. I found these plans on the internet. I'm not going to do it exactly the same as that, but I got this bit of leftover brass from a steam engine project. I got another bit of brass rod. I got some copper pipe. I'm going to make a couple of springs, and that's about it. It's fairly straightforward. The plans actually show this middle section. It's not transparent like this drawing. It's actually brass. They show this middle section made out of brass tube, and the bottom is separate and then silver soldered on, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this all in one because I can't see the point in doing it in two if I've got a piece of brass big enough to do the whole lot. So anyway, let's get over to the lathe and get this turned down. Let's get that mounted in the chuck. Right, I've got to take my fixed tool post off and put the compound on. I've set the compound up. I'm just going to cut the angle on the front. Right, that's got the lead angle. Just going to put a little round on there. Right, so I've got this little round here now, and this chamfer on there, down to the 8mm on the flat top. Well, I've actually gone 10mm because I don't want this to be exactly, when I bore it out, I don't want that to be exactly to the edge of the chamfer. I want a little step there. That's just a change in design, nothing to worry about. Right, I'm now going to put a parting tool in and form this piece here, the little lip that then sits inside the top of the can. Right, I'm just going to set the DRO. I'm touching off on the face with the parting tool. Set the DRO to 0. Come out. Move the cross slide 2.3mm, which is the thickness of the blade on the parting tool, and then re-zero the DRO. That now means that the edge of my parting tool is exactly right with the outside edge. So now overall I'm 10mm, or should be thereabouts, 8mm I think, yeah, 8mm. So now to cut that shoulder I've got to come back 4mm. Right, just got to drill a 5mm hole for the filler cap. I can now part that off. We've got so far. Right, now going to turn the base, which is this piece. It shows it separate, and then it shows just the little design on the bottom there. I'm going to do that all in one, so effectively that'll join onto that. So anyway, let's get it turned down to 24mm. Right, I'm going to drill out the centre to 20mm and then go in with a boring bar to finish it off. Now, because I've already got some drilled out there, I've got to just set the drill tip to the edge. So I'll just bring it down. One minute, bring it in a bit. Oops. Right, touch off on the scale, 0 my DRO. Perfect. Right, just got to flip it over now and turn the base down. Right, I've got it flipped round. I put some copper on the jaws, the soft jaws, and I haven't over tightened it, hopefully, because I don't want to distort the other side, but anyway, let's hope not. Well, I got too greedy, and this is the result. So anyway, find another piece of scrap brass and start again. What I'm going to do this time is turn this end first, because that way I'll have something solid. Take the soft jaws out for a minute. Fortunately, I have got another offcut from the turret on the steam engine, so I'll be able to use this. So let's get this sorted out to start with. Let's get the tool square to the work. There we go. Right, I've now got the tool square to the work. I'm just going to eyeball that. Right, I've just eyeballed the centre of the tool. I'm now going to move it over 5mm and lock it off. Right, the drawing calls up for this shape, but I quite like the shape I've done. I'll take it out because I've finished that end now. I quite like, I'll find the key. I quite like that shape. So I'm gonna leave it at that for the base. So now I'm gonna put it in the other way around, turn this down, hollow it out, same as I did the other one before I messed it up. Right, that will go on. I don't want to force it. Because I want it to be a tight fit. Right, good. I don't want to get that stuck on when that cools down. I mean, there's not a lot of heat in there, but I don't want to put the lid on and then it cools down and I can't get it off. So anyway, let's whip it out. Right, that's where we're at so far. Take two, of course. Yeah, starting to take shape. Right, the next part is to make the little finial, which I'm going to do now. So get a bit of brass set up and we can make a start on that. Alright, I'm just going to put it in a collet just to tidy this point up. little finial. That goes on the lid. Then you've just got to put an 8mm hole in there, and that's the little finial that you use to fill the oil can up with. Okay, so that little finial goes on there. Right, today we're going to make the plunger. Start off by making the top cap, and then we're going to make this retaining screw, and then we're going to turn down the shaft and make a spring for it. So let's get on with the little cap on the plunger first. It's only 10mm wide by 5mm deep. I've got to do a 1.8mm hole in there and tap it for an 8BA. It's not going to be much of a thread because it only goes in 4mm. That's the hole drilled. Just got to get an 8BA tap now. I'm not sure what's happened there. 1.8 drill for an 8BA. Alright, just had a bit of a cock up there. I got a bit worried there. I picked up the 6BA because I didn't read it properly. When it should be an 8BA. So anyway, we got the right tap now. I only want to put a little bit of pressure on this. Not going to get many threads in there. That's it, we're done. Right, just need to get it parted off, but I got it parted off at an angle because it'll form the top of the cap, the top of the plunger. So I'm going to part it off with this little angle bit. Went off in completely the wrong direction. Right, that's the little cap for the plunger. Got a thread in there. Just got to clean that little pip off the top. Right, I just had to make a bit of 6mm hex stock. I didn't have any. The nearest I had was 8mm, and that was going to be far too big for this, so I just made a bit of 6mm. That's just for the fittings. Right, that's got to have an M4 thread, 5mm down, which is the size of the fitting. So I need to turn that down to 4mm. get an M4 tap on there now. Sorry, an M4 die to put a thread on. Alright, let's get that tapped on there. I'm going to do a 2.4mm hole and then ream it to 2.5. Right, there it is. One fitting, which is, see, when you look at the drawings, it's not so bad, these fittings. You think, oh yeah, that's okay, no problem. And then when you make the fitting, and that is that, it's a bit more of a big deal then. Anyway, we got that one done. We got another two of these to make. I'm going to start to make the nozzle now, which means I need a bit of 3mm bar stock, so I'm going to turn this down to 3mm, but I also need a hole through the centre, so I'm going to get the holes done before I turn it down. I need a 1.5mm hole in one end, and I need a 1.3mm hole in the other end. Right, that's a 25mm long hole with a 1.3mm drill bit. I'm now going to swap that over to the other end. The other end, it calls up for a 1.5mm drill bit. Right, we've got the hole all the way through now. So I'm going to turn this down to 5mm both ways, and then I'm going to take the chuck off and put it in a collet, because the collet will hold it better when I get it down to a smaller diameter. Right, what I'm going to do is turn it down to 3mm. It wants to be 2mm at this end, or say 2.5 at this end and 3 at the other end, I think is what it calls for. Yep, needs to be, one end needs to be 2.5 millimeters, the other needs to be 3 millimeters. So I'm going to turn it all down to 3 millimeters, gradually feeding it out little by little, so I'm not trying to turn a big piece off, otherwise it's going to flex too much. So anyway, let's turn this down to 3 millimeters and then gradually feed it out. Right, that's the 1.5 millimeter end. So I need to flip that over because I want the smaller end sticking out. What I'm going to do is just file this down, get the taper with the file. Just doing the bend, just heating it up, bending it a little, then heating it up again and bending it a little bit more. Right, there's the nozzle. It's clear through. It sits at about that angle in the pot, which will give a nice little drip off the end, which is exactly how I want it. Just needs to be polished up, and that's ready to go in now. So that's another part done. Right, I'm going to make the plunger rod now. Which is this piece. So it needs to be 31 millimeters long. It's 3 millimeters. I've got some ground stainless steel for that. That's actually this rod here. That's the plunger that goes inside the intake valve. So I've got to turn that down to 2.2 by 5 millimeters in. Right, just put the thread on the end. I haven't got much thread in this plunger cap because the original drawing shows the thread all the way coming through and sticking out this side and then filing it off, but I didn't want that. I'm quite happy that the little bit of thread that's left in there, you know, I've got about 3-4 millimeters of thread, so I've got enough to hold that on with a bit of Loctite to stop the spring from pushing the cap off. The shaft down 17 millimeters down to 2.5 millimeters, and then the 3 millimeter will be the hole inside the valve. So this end is like the plunger and this bit is where the spring goes, but the 2.5 sits on the top of the plunger. like this. So the fitting will come down over the 2.5 piece up to the 3mm piece, and that's the actual plunger. Got that piece down to 2.5mm. Lower the speed, and I think I'm going to engage the back gear as well. There we go. Nice and slow now. Drop of the good stuff. Right, that's managed to break the cutter. Don't ask me why. I know it's stainless, but I should have went through there with no trouble, but anyway, doesn't matter. What I'll have to do now, I've got the line, I know where it is, so what I'll do is just take it out. Break that off actually. There we go. Break that off. Pop it back in. And then just face it down to size. The little plunger, which is that. That is that. So anyway, it has the it's got the cap on the end. It's got the fitting to hold it in, and then there's a little spring. I'm going to make a little spring just to go in between. Right, next we're going to make the pump intake. Which is this piece of brass. It has got this hole in here because that joins the outlet. So anyway, we've got to make that. It's a piece of brass, 27mm long, and it's got a 3mm reamed hole through the centre for the plunger to go in. This is where the plunger goes in. It's got to have a threading there for the fitting that we made, and it's got to have these little holes in there where the ball bearings go. Picture of where the bearing goes. This is the little hole which joins to the outlet, and then the ball bearing is there, and there's a spring goes in there. Hasn't showed the spring which holds that ball bearing against the hole, and then as you pull up it sucks it up, and as you push it down the bearing blocks the hole and forces the oil through there. Right, we've got a piece of brass in there now. We need to machine that down to, or turn that down to 5mm, and yeah, put a hole in. Right, I've got to drill a 2.6mm hole now. Right, got to drill that down to 24mm. Right, I've now got to put a 3mm reamer in there and ream that out. I'll just drill that out to 4mm and put a 2BA tap in there for the fitting. Right, we're just putting that little tap in the end there. Okay, that holds that in there, and then that slides up and down like that. You need to part that off at 27mm. To part that off at 27mm, which is the overall length, put this little chamfer on the bottom and drill the 1.6 hole in there, and then we're going to drop a bearing in there. Just tap it to form a seat. This is actually the seat for the bearing. Just tap it to form the seat, and then we'll drill this hole in the side. Right, it's got that parted off. Now what I've got to do is put a 1.6mm hole just in the end. That's to draw the oil up. Right, that's the little hole in the end. So now we've just got to put a hole in the side to connect this to the outlet. Right, that's what we're going to make today. It's the outlet. The oil comes in through this hole here from the pump and is pushed up through there and out through the nozzle. So we've got to form this dotted line feature. We've got to form that inside 25mm by 5mm tube. These are the dimensions for that. This will change because I'm not using a 2mm joining tube. I've got a piece of 3mm, or I might turn a piece of 2mm down. But I'm going to get this made up and put in the cap, see how far apart they are, and see what I need to join them before I drill this final arrangement here. Down to 5mm. So we've got 3 holes to put in. We've got a 3mm, a 1.5mm, and a 2BA, which is a 4mm. So we got a 3mm hole to punch in there, 20mm deep. Got a 1.5mm hole now. That's got to go 3mm more into it, so that's 23mm deep. Right, we've got a 4mm hole now, 5mm deep. That's for a 2BA tap. Right, just going to put a 2BA tap in there now. That's for the little fitting. Perfect. Right, I'm going to part that off now at 25mm. Right, so that's the outlet that goes out to the nozzle. Obviously the nozzle goes through the fitting into there like that, and then that's the nozzle for the can. I might cut this nozzle down actually. I think that's a little bit big in proportion to the can, but I'll have a look at that later. So all we've got to do is just drill the holes in the side now, but I'm going to put these in the top first. Right, I've now got it set up so I can drill the hole, these 5mm holes through there, which take the two tubes, the inlet and the outlet of the oil can. Right, I should be able to turn this round now, 90 degrees, to drill a hole on the other side. I can now drill the other hole this side. Right, I've set the cutter so it's 4.5mm in. I'm using a mill as opposed to a drill bit because it's on the round. And right, that's going to have a little bit of pipe soldered in there to join it to the other one. So I'll do the same thing with the other one. Just show you how I set it up, because it's actually smaller than the width of a parallel. So I'll set it up like that, put another parallel on the top like that, nip the vise up gently, I don't want to squash these, and then I pull that parallel out, give it just another squeeze, just enough to hold it in position now. And now I can centre this one, which I believe is 3.5mm. That one in position, do the same things we did with the last one. In fact, I'm going to fine feed this one. Right, I'm going to soft solder these together now. Hopefully that will be okay for it. A bit of wood might be better. Do it on a piece of wood because that'll just act as a big heat sink, I think. Right, that appears to have gone okay. I didn't want to get too much solder around there, that's why I didn't silver solder this, because if I get too much running it's just going to block the tubes off. But I'll give that a little time just to cool down now. All I'm doing is just using some electrical solder, which is pre-fluxed, which makes it a lot easier for a little job like this. Right, As you can see, that's all soldered together now, and I haven't got any run through on this side, which is exactly how I wanted it. Right, we're ready now for the final assembly. This is the base, obviously. This is pretty much how it goes together. That's the intake. That fits onto there. That'll be Loctited on eventually. We've got the nozzle, which goes on that side. That's the nozzle. And then we've got this little assembly, which is the plunger. That goes onto the plunger like that. That screws on there. There's normally a little spring in there which allows the plunger to move up and down. That fits into there. Like so. And then the little cap, the little finial goes on there like that. And there you have it. One little oil can. That's all, folks. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button. I would also appreciate it if you would click the subscribe button, because that will enable me to grow the channel so that I can keep making these videos. Please leave a comment or a question. I do read all of the comments and reply to as many as I can. Thanks for watching.